All right, so basically we're at the end of the game. You know, got all of our holes and stuff, so we'll start going through. First thing we'll do is come through and we'll scrape off. Usually we'll scrape off lightly to get all that calcited clay, the Pro's Choice off of there. And then we'll go through and scrape it a little bit heavier to, tell them to stop, to keep our integrity of our slope, because a lot of times when you get guys landing, they build up a lot of foot like build up in the front. So we'll scrape that all off so it's flat, keep the integrity of our slope so it's easier to pack. Right now we've got quite a bit of moisture still sitting in these mounds because we haven't hit the sun, but you know, after a day game out there, it gets pretty dry. End up with a lot of powder and stuff like that. We'll scrape off lightly, and then when we scrape harder, I'll get all that powder, get and get it out of here, because if you leave that powder in, it starts building up on the edges. You start running into where it starts getting higher on the outside of where you want, and then you start getting a little swale in there. So you want to make sure that you keep that stuff out of there. Go through and we'll put a little bit of water just to get the adhering for the clay to go in. And we'll just put just in the hole itself, instead of building it up all the way around here where it's already flat. If you put too much out there, then you start building up, and then you got to start scraping off. You start losing your the integrity of your slope. So we're using the Hilltopper clay. It's a polymer base. It's got, it's great to work with. We don't get it wet or anything. We take it straight out of the bag. We'll screen it, and because just there's a little bit of chunk in it, but that's not a big deal. We just like to have it as flat or as screened out as possible, just because we don't have as big of holes as what you guys may do. Go ahead and pack that in. The great thing about this stuff is we'll just take it straight out of the bag and just put it in there. It's ready to go. We'll let it sit and warm up in the sun a little bit to activate the polymers, but right now we could throw somebody out here. We could get the hose on this, get this all wet, and you'd still be able to play on it. It's not going to blow out. It's just ready to go. You want to scrape that in? So we'll come through and put all of our the Pro's Choice back into it. Scrape it up. We'd do this after the game. So we come through, pack it all out, get it all raked out with all the Pro's Choice, and then we'll water it, tarp it, and hold that moisture in there. And the next day we'll come out, take the tarps off, let them sit for an hour, hour and a half, let them just sort of air out, breathe, and then we'll start going through and doing the slope. From a point in the rubber 6 inches in front, it's a 1-inch fall for every foot that we put out here. And we'll measure that all the way through the top of the table here. Thing is just keeping if you can, I know it's impossible to do with some of the man hours and people that you have to work, just keeping this slope as close to the way you want it as possible. Like I said, when you end up with a lot of powder, you're gonna end up with big ridges on either side. If you pack too much in, it's gonna be too high, and then if you just keep packing that on there, it's just gonna end up being a point where it turns into a disaster. This has got 3 to 4 inch base of Hilltopper all the way through it. So we're not packing into clay bricks, clay or anything like that. It adheres best to itself. It's just easier to work when you've got that to work with, being flat and whatnot. Now our tables, we run out, it's an 18-inch table by 22 in the back. That's completely flat. And then we run our sides off of there from the radius of the circle, from our edge of our grass. So this is 6 feet right here. So that would be 6 inches. Per Major League rules, you only have to measure out to 6 feet. So anything past that, you're still going to try to keep your the integrity. So at 7, it would be 7 inches. But you know, you start running into the grass at that point. You know, from 18 inches from the front of your rubber on a 9-foot radius. So your turf's going to be out here. And I'm sure you have that problem of that grass being worn out all the time. Another thing with that powder and not taking all that material off is that when it water it and everything, all of that's going down into the grass down there. You'll have guys that have the clay on their cleats. For some reason, they all like to go just right to the edge of the grass, catch the ball, and then go back up. A tarp helps that, so you can, you know, it's not everything's running off and going into that grass. But we'll vacuum out in front of the grass. We'll sweep the grass. I'll take a nail. We'll take nails and just pop any pieces of clay that are sitting in the grass, and you'll find that there's actually grass blades down in there. If you get those opened up to the air, that'll help. You know, you're just suffocating everything, and it looks like there's nothing there, but it's all compact with either the powder or any of the chunks that have been raked out there, kicked out there, or any of that stuff. What's that? This entire mound is not, like I said, we've got like 4 inches of Hilltopper all the way through this thing. The game mound has about 6. There's about 40 bags all the way around it. That one for sure, all the way to the edges. Now some of this you can see it's a little bit to it, but there's some existing clay that's underneath there from original. But the more we can put on here, I would suggest being able to build out of that. The clay bricks and stuff like that, once they start getting wet underneath there, they just start turning into mush. And like the good stuff about this is like you don't have to have a pile of clay that you are constantly watering, trying to find the good clay that's not gonna be wet and stuff like this. Right now I could get this completely soaked and it's still playable. It's still ready to go. Like a double header, straight out of the bag, you can sweep this stuff out, pack it in, and it's ready to go for the game. I mean, they're not gonna blow out big holes and it's gonna, you know, end up being a huge hole. It's gonna keep those holes nice and tight. We've got so many guys that we work on it every day. So there's 3-4 hours that we're spending on each individual, you know, 3-4 hours total for each, you know, we got 5 mounds. So at the beginning of the year, we'll start renovating them out. But we haven't had as much problem with this Hilltopper as far as like when it freezes and thaws, it starts bubbling up and then you got to scrape all this powder and stuff off. It holds its integrity pretty good, but for the most part, it's rebuilding it in March, and then just holding that integrity through the whole season and trying to keep, if you have, you know, if it's starting to slope down or blow out on the backside, we'll measure that all out. But we're out here measuring every day.